Hello everyone. In this video, let's talk about eating disorders and try to understand its various presentations, that is anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorders and other types of eating disorders. Let's start with the introduction. In DSM-5, eating disorders has been grouped into the chapter of feeding and eating disorders. Here, feeding disorders have been subclassified as two group of disorders that were initially commonly seen in children, and these include the pica and the rumination disorders. These are termed as the feeding related disorders, signifying the presence more in the pediatric population. And then is the subset of eating disorders, which include anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa and the binge eating disorders primarily, and other disorders also, which we'll talk about later. Major importance of this group of disorder is because it does not only have an emotional or psychological impact on the person, but also leads to severe physical and psychosocial impairment, that is affecting the medical or physical health of the person, leading to even serious medical consequences, as well as affecting the interpersonal relations of the patients. These are the named disorders in this group. First is the anorexia nervosa. To remember, let's see the main key features in between these disorders. Anorexia nervosa, the primary single initial pathology is the low weight. This low weight is also associated with a fear of weight gain. So this fear, this low weight is the primary thing here, and along with that there is restricted food intake. So food intake itself is restricted apart from the other features that may or may not be present. In bulimia nervosa, the key feature is the presence of a recurrent binge episodes or binge eating episodes that are followed by compensatory behavior. Compensatory behavior in terms of excessive dieting, fasting, or purging in form of vomiting or diarrhea. A closely related disorder is the binge eating disorder. In binge eating disorder, there are similar binge episodes, recurrent binges, but there is no compensatory behavior. This is the key difference between bulimia and binge eating disorders. Next is the newly labeled diagnosis of the avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, also in short remembered as ARFID. So this is a new diagnosis in DSM-5, and this has been put here because certain subset of patients have a restrictive food intake, but that is not because of the fear of getting fat or weight gain, but this is because of other fears or sensory issues. So an avoidant restrictive food intake behavior, that is because of fear associated with other things, such as fear of getting sick after eating certain food or highly strict dieting, not primarily for the fear of weight gain, maybe because of fear of being unhealthy or having metabolic parameters deranged, etc. So if that leads to excessive restriction and avoidance of food leading to psychosocial impairment, then it is categorized as ARFID. The other two disorders are the pica and the rumination, also called the feeding type of disorder. So these are the feeding disorders. In pica, there is consumption of non-food items or non-nutritive food items is consumed. In rumination disorder, there is repetitive regurgitation of food. Eating habits are normal, but after eating, the food is regurgitated into mouth, then either re-swallowed or spat out. This is the brief introduction about these disorders. In this lecture, we'll focus on the eating disorders primarily. We won't be talking about the management or features in detail about pica and rumination disorders. Now, let's look on the etiology causative factors of eating disorders. We'll base our lecture on anorexia nervosa as it is the chief key psychopathology in eating disorders, and we'll see the differences in other disorders, bulimia and binge eating, based on anorexia nervosa as our prototype. This will ease our understanding and make it simpler to remember these things. First, biological etiologies. Genetic vulnerability is highly seen. There is an 11 times higher risk of having an eating disorder in a first degree relative of the patient. This increased risk has particularly been associated with the abnormalities in the SERT gene. Besides the genetic factors, there are a number of endocrinal factors that are associated with eating disorders. Out of this, particularly pubertal changes or hormonal disturbances in the female reproductive hormones is of prime importance, since eating disorders are primarily seen in female population and the onset is also during the early to late adolescence period. This period coincides with the development of puberty, onset of puberty. And secondly, the estrogen directly influence the eating habits of a person, be it during the menstrual cycle also and on a longer run also. So estrogen has a direct influence on eating. Pubertal changes exacerbate these changes in hormones and hormonal cycles, thereby making an individual prone to develop eating disorders during this phase. Now, talking about binge eating disorder, hormonal abnormalities, particularly of gastric hormones, have been seen, such as the low cholecystokinin hormone, which results in delayed gastric emptying. So, the feeling of satiety is delayed since gastric emptying is slowed down. The food does not reach the intestine, leading to delayed uptake of glucose and delayed perception of satiety. Hence, the binge episodes results in higher amounts of food being consumed. Now, talking about the neurobiological factors or changes in the brain associated with eating disorders, first let's see what the normal neurobiology of appetite or eating is. The main center responsible for control of hunger and satiety is located in the hypothalamus. Out of the various nuclei of hypothalamus, the arcuate nuclei is the key nucleus. Here, two types of neurons are present that are responsible for perception of hunger and satiety. So, for the perception of hunger, the primary hormone responsible is the ghrelin. Ghrelin, when released from the GI tract, goes into the arcuate nucleus through neurons and results in secretion of neuropeptide Y, which sends its signal to lateral hypothalamic area, which is the area responsible for hunger stimulation, as a result of which a person feels hungry. On the reverse, when person eats food, insulin is secreted and leptin is secreted. These again act on the arcuate nucleus. Arcuate nucleus then secretes the pre-opiomelanocortin hormone. Pre-opiomelanocortin hormone is a local neurotransmitter in the hypothalamus that is also responsible for production of ACTH and melanocyte stimulating hormone. Unrelated to this topic, but POMC then goes on to stimulate the ventromedial nucleus of thalamus, and this is the center responsible for the feeling of satiety. So it has been postulated that the appetite stimulating pathway is increased and the appetite suppressing pathway, that is the VMN pathway, is decreased, particularly in patients of binge eating disorders. So there is a lowered sensation of satiety and an increased sensation of hunger in patients who have binge episodes. Similarly, talking about neurotransmitters, 5 serotonin has been involved also in the genetic factors, as well as at the receptor level. 5-HT1A receptors have been shown to have an increased number in patients with anorexia and bulimia nervosa. Similarly, dopamine circuitry is also affected, and norepinephrine turnover is also increased in patients of eating disorders. Besides that, endogenous opioids have been found to play a role in hunger and satiety, and it has been found that endogenous opioids tend to suppress hunger and lead the patient to deny a hunger in itself. Now, talking about the psychological factors, the second part of etiology after biological, psychological, and the social factors. So, psychological factors. Certain personality traits have been associated with eating disorders, particularly perfectionism, highly self critical personality, and temperament of harm avoidance is present in anorexia nervosa. How this plays out is that patients with anorexia nervosa want to achieve the perfect weight, they presume. They are highly critical of the comments people put on them regarding their weight or appearance, and they want to avoid any possible harms associated with weight gain. So, this is common temperamental factors, personality factors associated with patients of anorexia nervosa. Similarly, in bulimia nervosa, there are high traits of impulsivity and novelty seeking. Impulsivity leading to episodes of binging, novelty seeking leading to episodes of varied types of food or different new items, high calorie items being eaten during binge episodes. There has also been found that patients also have a sense of lack of autonomy during childhood period, and this is compensated by having control over their eating habits. So excessive autonomous behavior is present in patients of anorexia nervosa. So the patient of anorexia nervosa would have had a childhood where they would not have felt very autonomous about their desires and wishes, and as a result of compensating for it, patient would then in adolescence try to control each and everything that they eat. Similarly, subconsciously, the psychodynamic theories suggest that oral desires are seen by these patients as unwanted and a symbol of greediness. And again, to suppress these oral desires, they starve themselves or restrict themselves. Besides, a high risk of comorbidities is also present in these patients. And on the other hand, despite being underweight and severely underweight in adolescence, these adolescents have a history of obesity in childhood, which is again overcompensated by excess starvation later on. Now, talking about social factors, patients have a long standing history of bullying and body shaming being present. The family dynamics are often conflictual, and parenting styles are often either parenting styles can either be neglectful here, or it can be over controlling. So these types of parenting styles and family dynamics are also seen as one of the etiological factors behind eating disorders. Next, cultural and media influences on thinness have also have a role in originating this disease, and these include the stereotypical presentation of women to have to be appear thin to be attractive. So these presentations across cultures, across the world, and across timeline have influenced the occurrence of anorexia nervosa and other eating disorders. Certain occupation where thinness is wanted or required by the profession itself have a higher incidence of eating disorder. These include modeling, ballet dancers, and wrestling, particularly for men with eating disorders. Here, weight is an essential criteria for qualification. Hence, here eating is strictly controlled. In men, gay orientation has been found to be associated with a risk of anorexia nervosa. So again, to appear attractive to other men, the drive for thinness or body image being better than others is processed by the person. Whereas in women, a lesbian orientation actually reduces the risk. So this is opposite in cases of females. So it primarily depends on who the other partner is. So if the other partner is male, then there is an increased risk. If the other partner or sexual partner is female, then the risk is actually decreased. In cases of bulimia nervosa, patients also are high achievers in terms of social domains in their lives.